And around these worlds, these cave worlds, there's a huge community that mainly lives on the internet, where people used to share projects, ideas, etc. And the aim of this panel is to give a physical visibility to this community that used to live on the internet. So now we have the opportunity to have face-to-face these three guys. They are Eric Wilhelm from Instructables.com, which is, as he says, the world's biggest show and tell website. We have also Peter Hill from Create Digital Music and Create Digital Motion. And Guy Giskis, that will show us all this stuff, this strange stuff that is here on the table.
Hey, so good afternoon. I'm Eric Wilhelm. I run a website called Instructables.com, and I'm just going to get right into some projects from the site. So this is a mouse. This is a small travel optical mouse, which has been skinned with the skin of a mouse. So it's kind of like a leather mouse, but it's actually a mouse. And next up, this is a trash-powered Honda Accord. So what the people here have done is they put a gasifier in the trunk of this Honda, which takes wood chips, it heats them up, gives off syngas, and then it pumps the syngas into the engine of the car and drives around. So you can drive around to dumps, get a bunch of trash and cardboard, put it into the back of this car and go. So these are two examples of about 25,000 that are on Instructables. And what I want to talk about today is this do-it-yourself movement, the DIY movement, of which Instructables is a part of, along with some other great sites like Make Magazine and Ready Made. And so to tell you about DIY and why I think it's important and why I think it's having a resurgence, I want to tell you a little story. And the story starts with my grandfather. So my grandpa he was the type of guy who kept his tools and his hardware organized. So these are baby food jars that he put all his nails in and had everything perfectly organized. So now we get to me. This is me. And I'm the type of guy that sneaks out of work to go fly kites. So here I am on a frozen lake flying a kite. And this is kind of the perfect sport for an engineer because you get to build a lot of your own equipment. So I sewed my own kites, I build my own boards and my own kite-powered contraptions. And you get to play with CAD, put everything together, and then take it out on the water and test it out. And eventually, you start to push the limit a little bit, and you do things like this, which is here I am test piloting a contraption that I built with my buddy behind me, wakeboarding. That's a 30-meter length of line between us, and what's actually flying me is a giant kite that's way too big for the conditions. And so I'm just kind of floating up there, and he's below me. And this is the type of thing where it's just like, hey, you got to do this yourself. You got to try this out. Take it to the beach and kind of see what happens. So eventually, I document all this stuff on my website. And as you can imagine, I get lots of emails asking, can I meet you at the beach? Can I do this with you? Where can I get more information? And the problem I was having was it was taking me just as long to write that web page as it was to actually build this stuff in the first place. It took me just as long to sew a kite as it did to write the web page. So I figured there's got to be a better way to do this. So I developed Instructables, which is really just a step-by-step documentation platform. And the thinking there was that everything that you do is really just a series of steps. you, as a human, you're really just focusing on one thing at a time. And you're just going down the steps one by one. So put together a tool where it just allows you to put multiple images, text, and video in each step and show people how you did things. So the neat thing about this kind of step-by-step abstraction is that you can take pieces of it and make subroutines. And so you can get more and more complicated projects documented. And so the step-by-step format turns out to be pretty powerful and it works pretty well. So this is kind of a simple example of an LED throwing. What you do is you take an LED, a light-emitting diode, a magnet, a battery, and a piece of tape, and you can create these little devices that you can toss up onto iron or metal walls to create art. So it's kind of a digital, analog cross of art. So you can see how it gets more complicated. You can imagine with these and a long exposure camera, you can do some more interesting things. You can do writing with light, or what this user has called this an Ebola, like a light emitting, spinning weapon. And you can take that even further and make a do-it-yourself bullet time camera rig. So this is like the homemade version of the type of cameras used in the Matrix movies. And what people have done is they've taken a bunch of consumer cameras, put them in a semicircle, and then you do long exposure photography with them all at once. And then you take all those images and you post-process them into that rotating image. And with that, you can make pretty cool videos.
It's the Ghost SP, G-O-D, A-Z, XP. It's the Ghost SP with the G-O-D, A-Z. Okay. SP with the G-O-D.
So what's happening here is a group called the Graffiti Research Lab made this tool and then made it available to a bunch of local artists who were then able to, at a very low budget, make this video, which has some techniques which were otherwise unavailable to them. Renting a full-up commercial bullet time rig is hundreds of thousands of dollars in the US. It's just not something that a small artist can do. But with this do-it-yourself movement, the instructions are up on the website. They can figure out how to do it, and at a pretty low cost, they can do some really neat effects. So and kind of thinking in the spirit of the conference of failing gracefully, Instructables users on the site are also documenting things that don't work, the impossible roller skates, and how not to use an angle grinder. So, document your own failures so other people don't have to fail ungracefully. So, this step-by-step documentation really isn't new. This has been done for a long while. Instruction manuals and documenting how various heirloom techniques were done. So, the question is really, what's new? What's new about this? So, what I think is new is that we're getting a bunch of really cool tools that are making giving you the ability to make physical objects easier. So this is a 3D printer. You send it a digital file, and it prints you an object. These things have been developed, in the past 10, 15 years, but they're coming down in price and they're becoming accessible to more and more people. Similarly, laser cutters. This is a desktop type of tool now. You can buy a laser cutter for about $10,000, and you can start cutting out things directly from files. So you can go to the web, you can download a file of a part, and you can cut it out. Same thing with a water jet. This is an abrasive jet machining center, which is essentially just a fire truck hooked up to a hypodermic needle, and you just use that water pressure to blast through metal. And to cut things out. This is another precision tool where it's becoming more and more accessible. So what's happening is open source hardware is coming of age because of these tools. Like in open source software, all you have to do is compile. All you need is a computer. Anybody can get a computer. They can download the code and they can compile it. And that's very it gives a lot of opportunity. For hardware, it's more difficult because of that compilation step. Not everybody can do it. But as these tools become more and more available and accessible, open source hardware becomes something that is we're really going to see. You're going to be able to go to the web, find a project, download it, and have it printed out for you. So another thing that I think is driving this resurgence of do-it-yourself is custom is cool. People want to have custom stuff. So the question is, if we all have an iPod, how do we express ourselves when you're riding the metro and everybody has the same earphones, the same tool? How does that make you feel? How do you express yourself, and how are you different if you're using the same things? So I think the obvious answer is people do it themselves. They build their own types of things, and they express themselves with this DIY ethos. And then finally, it's easy to customize your digital world. You can change up the background on your computer very easily. You can change up your icons, your avatars, your logos, or whatever in your digital world without really much effort. But how do you customize your physical world? And so I think that there's that tension between that ease of customization in the digital world and the difficulty in the analog. And I think that's where a lot of people are thinking, hey, I really want to know how to do these things with my hands. I don't want to lose those techniques, those knowing how to use hand tools that my grandparents used to do. This is my workshop, and it can certainly take a little bit of organizing like my grandfather. So I think that's kind of the final piece that ties it all together. Is the tools are becoming accessible. You want to customize, you want to show yourself off, you want to be unique, and then finally, it's easy to do in the digital world. You want to learn how to do it in the analog world. So finally, my slides are available on my website. Download them, remix them, do whatever. Check out the site. I'm sure you'll love it. There's a lot of great stuff there. And I'm now going to turn it over to Peter. Thank you very much.